Although the Executor was already my second most played character, after the latest patch I can't stop playing him, and he's now by far my favorite. The Executor has a medium health pool with 1000 HP at level 15, but he has the second highest physical damage reduction right behind the Guardian. He's weak to magic and lightning, but has average resistance to holy and fire damage. He has very high dexterity and arcane, and the standard dodge with 13 invincibility frames or iframes and 7 frames of recovery. His role is on the front line, and he can work either as a tank in his unique Deflection Stance, or during his beast form, or as a damage focused character in his base stance. He is by far the most mechanically complex character to use in Nightreign, and he will require you to pay close attention to enemy attack patterns and to learn his unique techniques that the game does not explain, like certain animation cancels. If you like games like Neo, where you have to master several stances, or if you have hesitation is defeat tattooed on your arm after beating Sekiro 7 times, one for each of Kurosawa's 7 samurai, this is your class. His ideal weapons are those that involve dexterity, arcane, and or status effects. And like in Elden Ring, in Nightreign, all status effects scale better the more arcane you have, including Frost. In general, we will be looking for katanas, Reduvia, the Halo Scythe, the Antipore Rapier, or the Frozen Needle, although any dexterity weapon will work well with him. His unique katana moveset is quite good, although it has very few thrusting attacks, when piercing damage is usually the most important type in the game because it deals bonus damage while enemies are attacking. Though this depends on enemy weaknesses, and slashing damage can also be very effective against unarmored enemies like Margot, for example. With his first ability, we can enter or exit the Deflection Stance with his Cursed Sword. Right from the start, this stance transition itself can deflect attacks. Of course, while in this stance, when attempting to block attacks, we can deflect during the next 10 frames of the animation at 30 FPS, which is about a third of a second. For reference, the Executor's role, the game's baseline, has almost half a second of invulnerability, 0.433 seconds or 13 frames. It starts out being less generous than Sekiro, which has 12 frames, but in that game, every successive block attempt reduces your invincibility frames to prevent spamming, whereas that does not happen in Nightreign. When deflecting an attack, we deal similar posture damage to a light attack from a heavy weapon, though this varies depending on the attack. All attacks deal posture damage, and when an enemy's internal posture meter reaches 0, we can land a critical with a special animation. And this is important because the Cursed Sword has an extra 50% critical multiplier, so you should always switch to that stance to perform a critical. In exchange, in this stance we cannot sprint and our dodge becomes a quick sidestep without a roll, with only 8 invincibility frames, but still with the same fast 7 frame recovery. This has pros and cons. It is very useful for chaining attacks quickly or sticking close to enemies, but it obviously requires more skill. Also, attacking in this stance consumes very little stamina, which is extremely useful for things like reviving allies or staying on the offensive. Blocking without a deflect, on the other hand, has 60 guard value, which is quite decent, equivalent to the Guardian's starting Great Shield or a blue rarity medium shield. This stance has its own skill, which only deals good damage after deflecting 4 times when the sword starts glowing, and it scales normally with skill damage. In fact, the Cursed Sword counts as wielding a normal weapon two-handed, and any melee damage bonuses apply just as usual. When deflecting or blocking, like with any other weapon in the game, if we try to perform a heavy attack afterward, we will instead do a guard counter that deals roughly the same normal and posture damage as a fully charged heavy attack. This is very important because when using the Cursed Sword, our main goal is to break enemy posture. So learning when we can safely use these will help a lot. The only problem is that certain heavy attacks or large enemies will knock us flying after deflect or block. This can be avoided with a specific trick. When attacked like this, if we disable lock-on and move the stick toward the direction of the enemy's attack, which is usually moving it downward, The Executor's role will go in the opposite direction, and after finishing it, we can perform a Gara counter normally, as you can see in the background footage. It takes some time to master, but it is absolutely worth learning to manipulate this animation. Additionally, shifting the cursor, which as I said has deflection frames, also allows us to avoid being launched, although we won't be able to Gara counter afterward. As you may have deduced, we will normally use a cursor when we have the boss's attention, and use a regular loadout when our teammates have aggro in order to maximize damage. Although this is not a strict rule, and depending on the situation, enemy size, and many other factors, we may alternate or even favor the quote-unquote wrong option. For example, against large monsters that attack infrequently, we will often focus on our normal loadout, but this can change if we know a specific attack allows us to perform a guard counter, something similar. As if this complexity wasn't enough, the Executor's ultimate ability is basically another completely different character with its own moveset, Beast form. It has its own light and charge attack chains, designed for DPS and butcher breaking respectively, although sometimes we want to use the heavy attack because its sweeping hitbox covers more area. Also, instead of blocking, we can unleash a roar, which is a ranged attack that damages many enemies at once, which is extremely useful. Not only that, but one relic perk allows us to heal both allies and ourselves every time we use it, which for me is the most useful relic perk Executor can have, turning him into a sort of healing tank in his form, and making it extremely valuable for surviving higher depths, higher difficulties. Finally, Beast form has a very slow attack as a skill that always returns us to normal form. If our health is reduced to 0 while performing this attack, nothing will happen, and when we revert to our normal form, we will have 1 HP. However, if our posture is broken during it, the animation will be cancelled and we will actually go down, so be careful. When finishing this ability, we retain the remaining ultimate charge, so it can be useful to activate it briefly if we simply need to apply a hit stun or deal massive damage at a specific moment. Oh, and of course, Beast form has its own dodge that makes us move very fast, which can be extremely useful for escaping the rain if we are outside the circle. The weakest part of the Executor's kit is his passive, although it does have its uses. When we fully recover from a status effect, we gain a stamina recovery buff and 20% more damage, and this stacks, meaning that if 3 statuses are applied, we get 60% more damage. If we use the Seppuku skill, we can apply it ourselves, and even do it multiple times. Aside from that, it is rare for the passive to be useful. There's a relic perk that allows us to slowly regenerate some of that lost health when this passive activates, but the rate is very slow, so it's not particularly strong. To wrap things up, let's talk about 3 basic relic builds for the Executor. The first, and my favorite, is using both Balancer relics to improve both our regular weapon skill and the Cursed Sword skill, plus an extra 10% melee damage. Since the Cursor skill is tied to deflection, we get a very balanced character that deals a lot of damage across all aspects of combat. As a third base relic, I recommend either the Undertaker's Glass Necklace for a global damage buff, or a random relic that allows us to heal allies with Beast form roars and also gives some extra damage. Personally, I use a perk that grants 7% damage for each invader we defeat. As a second option, we can stack many status effects on our starting sword, and then look for a purple upgrade stone to use it throughout the entire run. For example, we can use Caligo's relic to apply frost with our skill, or Noster to give ourselves poison. Additionally, if we find extra bleed damage, it will stack with the starting Katana's bleed, although we will lose 15% base damage by doing so. In general, adding more status effects, if not through skills, will cost us some damage, so we have to be careful, especially if the boss is resistant to that status. Still, these relics will more than pay for themselves if we manage to apply the effect. Finally, I want to mention the most overpowered build for solo play or for well-coordinated teams. If we take the perk that lets us deal more damage with the curved sword, but also receive more damage when hit mid-animation, and stack all kinds of relics that increase critical damage, like Adele's relic or any basic crit perks, we can land absolutely devastating criticals, even killing certain bosses in a single hit if we manage to get enough critical upgrades during the run. It tends to not to be very consistent in team play, but it's pretty good if you prepare for it. If you're also interested in playing Iron Eye, check out this video where I talk about my experience switching to mouse and keyboard to play it. And if you like this video, this is YouTube, you know what to do.